What's popping, y'all? What's popping, y'all? It's your boy, NFO Merc. Was good. All right, today we're gonna talk about. I know y'all heard about that shooting that happened at up Philadelphia with at the Ramadan. I think it was in Parkside. Right now, I'm not gonna get into that too much, but I need to talk about something that's inside of that we need to understand. Right. So, all right. In true Merc fashion, we're going to rewind it a little bit to a certain point and then walk into that and then go past that, right? So allow me if you understand what I'm saying. So when we come to detoxing, right, a fasting or a detoxing is supposed to be somewhat unpleasant, right? Because the negative thing we call cancer for the sake of right. Most detoxes are to rid you of an illness, right? An illness that is running on the stuff that you already take, that you're already doing. You're constantly doing this, right? You got to go to work, you got to do this, you got to do that. So you take a time out for yourself. The most vital part in any equation is you. So you take time out for that and restart your system. So because the way it's set up, you don't know who and what to trust. You abstain from as much as you can, right? So you're probably just drinking water. You got a water fast, right, where you abstain from those from just this is the part you're eating, you're ingesting, right? But earlier I had told you everything you do is part of your live it, aka diet, part of your live it, right? Because even the way we speak is part of your live it, right? We're not going. So the reason why I'm saying live it instead of diet is obvious, right? Because what I'm doing is designed to live, not designed to die. So I want to live it, not die it. So inside of my live it, I will be, I will be doing, I will be eating foods and doing things that would add to life, right? So Ramadan is inside the Muslim religion. It's a fasting period, right? When they don't eat for a certain amount of when the sun is up, and then after the sun goes down, you may eat, right? So they do that for X amount of time, and then the last day they have a feast. Boom. So the reason that's just the skeletal of Ramadan. Inside of that, though, right? I never read this nowhere, never really talking about it nowhere. But if you really understand what's going on, you're supposed to be ridding yourself of everything, right? So the music, the stuff you listen to on your phone, if it's not if it's not Islamic based or Quran based or Hadith based, where you're not just overloading, replacing everything that you were doing in that time with the word of your creator and getting your brain to reset and take on this try to understand the purity of it all, then just not eating isn't going to do it for people, right? Because the mind is still feeding off of the other negative parts of the reality, right? So when I was in jail, they gave Juma on Friday, and they would call Ramadan in the respective time whenever Ramadan came up. And almost every time, it's a cold red. It's blood on the ground. It's a fight, 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 fight. And somewhere, sometime down the line, somebody thinks it's cool to convert these type of mentalities into this type of religion, right? Now, in a broad stroke of things, it does save some, especially over time, because they're in it and then they understand it and then they follow that a little bit and they crawl out of it using that particular faith. But for the most part, it is still gang charred. It's still those same fractions of hatred that may be underneath this faith, but they're still clashing against one another, right? So um, that was clear and evident proof that the ritual of fasting and all that went over the heads of everyone there, right? Because of that right there. Then you got to understand that the way that they look at the Muslim religion versus the world, right? It is considered the dirty religion. This is not my words. This is how they read it. This is, I think, Islam next to Scientology. Scientology is clearly the youngest one, but I think Islam was like one of the youngest religions as far as religions go, right? The big book religions went. So it was frowned upon. That's why the Muslim has a sword in their imagery because it was came under the Crusades, under war, under like a rebellion and so forth. It was only right that jails and the ghettos of America would permeate a certain section of Islamic creed and faith. There's actually nothing wrong with the skeletal structure of the Islamic faith because, believe it or not, it has a way of saving certain people from the pitfalls of today, right? It's they I'm not Muslim, but I met enough of them and I heard this throughout. We had different conversations with different Muslim brothers, and a lot of them didn't play cards because they said that was a sin. And I forget what was the reason behind that. They didn't get into the entertainment, singing and rapping and all that. They said that was a sin too, right? So then when you say, I look at it, I used to always challenge that, like, how is that a sin? How is that a sin, right? Then I look into the rap world and I see that inside of the Muslim religion, there are other religions that they are at odds with, right? Christians and Jews, right? So, and outside of the religious context, you look into society and you look into the industries and you see what religions is common at certain levels of entertainment or industry, certain levels of commerce, certain levels of business, certain levels. You kind of see the sections. It's almost like a rainbow. It's layered, right? So at the bottom rung, you're going to see like blacks, right, which tend to be Christians and Muslim and non whatever. Then you see right there, they got like that white Christian, that good blue collar white hillbilly Christian, I don't know, Catholic Christian, all that other type of stuff. And then right above that, a nice little shiny thin sheer Jew, right at the helm, right now. People will argue and people will say all this stuff like that, but it is what it is. The facts are the facts, right? This is what it is. So, um, it's not. This is not bashing. I promise you, this is not bashing. This is understanding. This is coming from a place of understanding. Understanding is on the side of love. So, because I'm trying to understand, I'm not talking bad about nobody. So, do not get offended because of these words that I'm saying. There's no other way to describe the religion other than Jews. There's no other way to describe the religion other than Christianity. I'm talking about the religion, and I'm talking about little trends and stuff like that you see in the business world. So there's no need to try to take my 5 views. You know what I mean? Let me just tell you what I'm telling you. All right. So, but it's the way they understand the religion, right? Because everybody has a problem with religion. You ask the most common question I hear with anybody: they're not religious. They're not religious. They're not religious, right? But religious, if you look at it like this, is what's religious and something you do religiously, something you do constant, something you do all the time. You consider that your religion. And in the psychological realm, that what you do all the time that entertains your mind is the thing that rules you. This is your God, right? Because you're serving it, right? So this is where you get goals and distractions, and you say the devil is in the distraction. The devil is a lie because you have a goal you're trying to get to, and something deters you from that goal, whether it's addiction, trauma, or just misinformation, and whatever it is, or anything that's working against you, you see it as the devil, right? So these religions have found a way to, once you understand the religion, because a lot of us threw away the religion because the religion was given to you in such a way that it did not really benefit you. But if you go inside, right, and really go past just sitting in the pew, right, and you go inside, you're going to see some more. You're going to see the real metaphor of it. You're not going to take it literal. And then from that metaphor, you're going to be able to create something outside of that from that religious word. And I hope that didn't go over a lot of people's head, but I know it did, right? So if you say, Dan, what is Elon's religion, right? And from his religion, that is what gave him a certain type of cue to create a particular technology that's now whatever, even if it's down to the name or the symbol the name of his kids, and the name of other companies. These ideologies that came from a religious charged sector that's now being talked about by two minds that exist in 2024 with that religious background, trying to conquer a certain element in the reality to do something in the reality. You understand? So there are so many movies to help us understand what I just said. There are so many other scenarios to help us understand what I just said. But even the buildings, the buildings, if you just all right, if you look at I'll probably pull up pictures and show you. If you look at certain buildings, right? If I show you a Catholic building, if I show you a synagogue, if I show you I don't know, Roman this or Egyptian that, you will be able to say, oh, that's Chinese architecture, that's Gothic architecture, that's this and that architecture, right? And all of that came from a religious text that inspired the men to build a temple, right? So a certain way that their language, their matrix, right, was broken down in the metrics that gave them the measurements, that gave them the colors, gave them the sound, gave them the shape, in which they're not going to statically shape out of like materials. Static means non-moving. Build materials that would look like the word in which they understood. So now me and you come through, the interpreter, the observer, right? And we go, damn, that look like it's Catholic. That look like it's this. That look like it's that, because of the architecture. And that architecture came from, before it became from their Home Depot book, before it came into their particular style of architecture, it came from a religious text that men were so blown away by it, they counted how many times a particular letter was in the whole book. And then they understood that number to say, damn, the letter A popped up in the whole text 1,000 and some odd times, and they write that down. The letter B popped up 3 million and some odd times, they write that down. The letter C, and so forth. And then that becomes musical cues, that becomes angles and shapes and so forth. So now when they crystallize the building in that, in the likeness of their creator, from the words that has a certain amount of letters, that has a certain amount of, is deep, is very deep. And this is what the Masonic order is following. This is what it's all about. I would like to go into super nerd talk. This is not for the average listener, I'm so sorry, but I would try to keep it as tangible as I can. Um, uh, so that's how they create the temples. Is how we get certain sounds. Is how we get mantras. Is how we get gospels. Is how we get the language to communicate with your um, non-conscious mind. Right? You have a conscious mind. You have an unconscious mind. I'm sorry. Right? You have a conscious mind. You have an unconscious mind. That unconscious mind doesn't mean that it's inoculated or asleep. It means that for you to survive in this particular part, that rest of it isn't needed. Like, so you only see what you need, what you only see what you need, right? So uh, this is the mind magic. This is why in earlier episodes I'm telling you about, when somebody tell you about a particular something new that you never saw about, like a particular car. Once they tell you about this car, I got this car, and you say, damn, I never seen that. And you see it, and then when you go outside the next day, you start seeing them on the highway, you see them down the street, they park right next to you, and you say, damn, that's crazy, they all over the place. They always exist. It's just that you had no need to see it. So when the people are controlling the minds, right? Because the frequency is, I have to probably illustrate this. All right, I have to give out some imagery. Um, I have a whiteboard. I don't know. This would be a good time for the whiteboard. Damn it, I wasn't thinking about that part. All right, but we could use some imagery to help show this. So I'll probably use a computer later and break down of frequency. But if you see the frequency is a squiggly line, right? Now if you draw a baseline, like a middle line, so it's three lines, right? The middle line, top line, bottom line. And that squiggly line lives on that middle line, but it visits the top, visits the bottom, visits the top, visits the bottom, but it lives on that middle line. That middle line is the straight and narrow. It's the truth. But because you were living, you step into life, you step into death. You step into life, you step into death. You're breathing. Remember your breath. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So there's a certain line that inhale, exhale is living on, right? That is the truth. That is the reality. How many times you visit said truth is the frequency. So the high frequency visits the truth a lot. If you vibrate high, you're coming across that line a lot. You're seeing a lot. You're remembering the line. You keep remembering the line. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. You're focused, laser focused, right? But when you're not, you don't visit that line that often. You're just like this. So even though they're fasting, and it was designed for you to visit that line more frequently, they were still putting other things in that empty space. They were still listening to certain type of music that promoted a certain lifestyle. They still was looking for enemies. They still was clutching in certain areas. They didn't care about whatever was going on when they decided to let it go. Right. So that is what I'm trying to say. Right. Um, I think as Black people, we are so far behind on, and we follow traditions that's already been laid out without asking critical questions. All right, we cannot take our essence for granted, because that is the most sacred thing there is. You are the most sacred thing there is. They want you to think about Muhammad and Allah, Jesus, and all these different people like they exist outside of self, when really and truly that's you. That's the ideal you. You understand what I'm saying? You are Jesus. You are Muhammad. You are that. They never existed. There's no way to, they never existed. There's no way to prove that they existed. This is just an idea created by the crafters of the reality to shape your mind. It's all about mind control on the most primitive part of it. Once humanity crossed into that point, blink, it was the new predator on the board, and it never left. It's always here, ever present, chipping away at your subconscious mind, so that your conscious mind will be making moves to benefit that subconsciously. This is what it's all about. This is the great deception, right? So on the chessboard, how much time do I got here? About 12 minutes. All right, cool. I think I can do this in 12 minutes. If y'all listen, the NFO Merc the Code Breaker. I need y'all to hit the comment button and type in what you don't understand, what you do understand, and what you would like for me to talk about. If you think that, damn, I want to hear what he will have to say about that, please put it in the comments. That will help me make faster videos. A lot of the times, the thoughts that I'm getting, they come from a certain area, right? A certain mindset. And then when I try to put it out there, something doesn't connect well with the family, right? It's probably my dry, hello. I doubt it's that, right? But I do think it's probably the title and where do you put this information, right? How do I make the information come into a how to or why or some type of shit like that, as opposed to like just murk thoughts type shit, right? But believe me when I tell you this, y'all, like a lot of this stuff right here is the framework of something that's going on inside your reality. As soon as you like wipe the lens with this type of shit, trust me, it applies tomorrow, today, to the next second. You could watch the news, you can watch movies, and be like, oh shit, damn, bro was trying to, okay, damn, they created that to control that on some type of level where they're not even touching shit. Damn, what the fuck? This gets into cloning. I'm gonna talk about cloning not too far from now. But anyway, let's get into the chessboard. If you know anything about chess, the front line is the pawn, the customer. Then behind the front line, we go into symbology, right? The symbology is the castle, which symbolizes the land, which symbolizes law, which symbolizes the law, right? The will of the particular color of the board. So we got the black side, we got the white side, right? So We got pawns, we got the castle. Then next to the castle, we got the knights, right? The knights have a special power. They're the only piece on the board that can jump over another piece. And they don't move, they move in an L shape, right? Now, the knights represent the law, right? See, because the law has to be able to break the law in order to maintain the law. Right, this is another little shady area of law of controlling the masses that they don't like to talk about, but they show you in movies all the time. They show you that detective who has to break the law in order to do the law. They sent detectives undercover who had to actually use cocaine, get hooked on drugs and all types of shit in order to bring down a bad guy. And that entity that want him to do that don't care about him. That guy now becomes a crooked cop later in the future because he has a drug habit. They open up Pandora's box on him. Blink, blink. And now there's a breach in security. But anyway, so we got the knight. The knight moves in an L form because it represents the law. He can jump over people. Then we got the bishop. The bishop is, you'll find that word off the chessboard in the reality in a religious context, right? Bishop T.D. Jakes, so forth, right? So the bishop, he has a certain path, right? The left hand path or the right hand path. So even though you have a white bishop, he might be on a white square, and you might have a white bishop that's on a black square, and they move diagonal. They only attack on that color square, even though they represent the same side. Now, next to the bishop, we have the king and the queen, right? Now, the bishop represents religion, right? So we have the land, we have the law, we have religion, then we have the king and the queen. So right next to the power, right, is the religion. And then when you say, what's the religion is actually the religion. And then the other one, the other path, let's say the religious one is on the white path. And then the black bishop is the music, the entertainment path, right? The path that Puffy's on. And Puffy was being governed by a king and a queen, that he was on a path. He was being a bishop for the people that claimed they weren't religious, that was still following another gospel. That was following another gospel under the church of Bad Boy. When you realize how sacred your energy is and how you are, you wouldn't align with none of these things. None of these things is all by happenstance. Just look at when I was growing up and listening to this particular DVD, like Broken Knowledge and Dr. Phil and Bobby Hemmett and Ashra Crazy. Shout out to Ashra Crazy, my pop, Malachi York. These are the elders that shit, Khalid Muhammad, Malcolm X, Brother Soul Dad, Richard Wright. These are some of the authors and the different minds that came before me that helped me see KRS-One, that helped me see the reality a certain type of way, right? So, damn, what was I saying before that though about the chessboard, Puff Daddy is so sacred that everything that you're involved in, you won't take it for granted, right? Talking about the religion, talking about how that stuff corralled a group of people to move for the agenda of your enemy, that cloaked. It was a breach in security. They cloaked because you thought you had free will. You thought that you were making a decision that was going to benefit you. You thought so. It's time for you to think again. It's time for us to take a fasting, make it very unpleasant, pull away from everything you like, end your warm, cozy day with a cold shower. Brush your teeth with the other hand. Try something different. Try it and do it with a purpose. The purpose is love. The purpose is understanding. The purpose is to win, to shine through, be a better you. Today is the day that you would do something that tomorrow you will love you for. All right? This is your new live it. You will now control the way you sleep, the way you speak, the way you eat, and the way you act, and the way you reflect, because you are part of the brotherhood. The brotherhood, I'm sorry. You're now part of that. And don't matter what you think, you will be judged by the way you live, by the way you eat, by the way you speak, by the way you earn your money, by the way you spend your money, and by the way you die.